We'll hit broadcast and hopefully we will start to have people join us. Good morning, those joining us. If you can see certainly me and David, please pop a note in chat to let us know you can hear us and see us. And we're just going to give people a couple of minutes to come on in, and we'll get started.
Excellent.
So nobody's talking to us yet, David. So either that means people can't hear us. Gemma's put a hand up. Thank you, Gemma. Yeah, and Andrew's saying he can hear and see. So we're good. Lots of hands going up. That's excellent. We will give it another 30 seconds and we will get started. So thank you for joining us, everybody, this morning. I hope it's sunny wherever you are on this Wednesday morning.
Certainly sunny here in Bath.
Yeah, we had sun. It's clouded over a little bit in Norfolk, but the day is yet young. Right, let's get going, David. So good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. I'm just going to share my screen and get some slides up for us here. So welcome to App Advisory Plus's App of the Month. We're delighted to have David from CitrusHR with us today, and we're going to be talking broadly about the opportunity for accountancy firms to support clients with HR, almost as an extension of payroll services. So for those that don't know me, my name is Farnell. I'm one of the co-founders and director at App Advisory Plus, and also a director of Farnell Clark in Norfolk. And as already mentioned, I'm joined by David Lester this morning, HR. Good morning, Dave. Would you like to give a very brief introduction of who you are, how you ended up working in HR software?
Yes, thank you, Will. Good morning, everybody. My name is David Lester. I was once a chartered accountant many decades ago. It wasn't for me, and I went to found a software company, did quite well. I ended up loving small companies. Small companies are my thing. I ran a thing called startups.co.uk, which is the UK's biggest small business website still for advice and information for small companies. And through that, discovered a huge need for better help with HR. So I ended up setting up this company, CitrusHR, trying to help small businesses with people problems.
Yeah, and you'll know better than I will, David, the number of people that are that are employed by the smallest businesses out there, and often these are small businesses that don't always have the ability to access in-house HR services and so on.
Yeah, it's a huge issue. Obviously, I'm sure most of you run small businesses effectively. We certainly still do. No matter whether you've got 3 staff or 33 staff or 33,000 staff, employment law still applies. And the vast majority of employment law applies to you as a small company. But of course, if you've got 13 or 33 staff, you don't have enough capacity or need for a full-time HR person. You don't have that ability to stay on top of it. You've got tons of other things to do. So that's where we come in. We can try to help keep you compliant, make sure you're the right side of the law, and help you manage your business.
Yeah, perfect. Excellent. So David, this is what we're going to talk about today. I've already mentioned this synergy between HR and accountancy. I'll talk a bit more about that in a moment. Briefly talking about the way that from an accountancy firm point of view, how you can generate revenue from HR services in a number of extremes, from the point where you don't have to do a huge amount through to the point where you can actually deliver HR services either by recruiting internal resources, subcontracting, a whole number of ways we'll do that. And we'll also talk about how Citrus can help you do that. The natural step to kind of bundling HR and payroll services as an offer to your clients. And when David talks about what Citrus specifically can do to help, he'll also touch on some of the HR tools that are available in their platform to support some of the COVID challenges, particularly as we move into part-time furlough. And if you guys are having to manage this, as my payroll team are here, you'll be, I'm sure, scratching your heads and taking significant time in doing that. So that's the plan. So David, before we start, I mean, in terms of us in Farnell Clark, we've known you guys for a while and we've worked with you for a while. Some time ago, it kind of dawned on me that we're processing, we're probably 600 or so payrolls now, but at the time it was about 400. And the benefit of running payroll for our clients is that naturally we know when they take on a new member of staff, because they say, hey, I've taken on a new member of staff, can you add them to the payroll? For a long time, we just, we'll add the employee, what's the pay details, what's their name, address, everything else. Clients would provide us that information and we'd run the payroll. And we often didn't stop to think, well, hang on a second, they're taking on a new employee. Should we not be flagging some of the things that they should be thinking about in terms of job descriptions, contracts of employment, employee handbooks, and all of these other things that naturally people should be doing when they take on employees? And one day the penny dropped, and it's like, well, we should be kind of offering this support to our clients. And within Farnell Clark, we had links to a local HR consultant. And we approached them and effectively white labeled their service. So they operate as a Farnell Clark person with a Farnell Clark email address, and they provide our clients with HR services. So you must talk to lots of accountants now. Are you seeing a shift? Has a penny dropped for other firms in terms of this kind of fairly obvious link up?
Yeah, it absolutely has, and we've got a small group of angel investors that help build us, and several of those are accountants in practice who run their own firms just like this, just like yours, Will, and they've absolutely got it, and they see that need big time, and it really is about the connection is huge. And the fact that the old traditional ways, which were there for a long time, were okay, but they were broken, really. They didn't do a great job. They did an okay job at a time when much better is possible. And I think this zero cloud accounting world has really opened people's eyes to what you can do, particularly if you want to join things up. And it's nuts to do all this stuff separately and then take lots of time to re-enter information into different systems. It takes time, you build in inaccuracies, it gets frustrating, particularly around payroll. A lot of people talk about how payroll leads to the biggest hassle and the biggest complaints when it goes wrong, because no one likes to get the pay wrong. So I think if we can streamline that, we can make a big difference.
Yeah, and the big thing for me very early on was that I'm all up for regular client touch points, and I remember the first employee that I took on in my firm was somebody to do payroll, because it was pre-RTI and we could do direct to annual payroll, so you could do it once a year. But I took the decision that I was going to take somebody on to process payroll in-house. And they were going to email every client every month with their payslip, because it creates a touch point, and the clients would often reply to Vicky, who would send them the payslip and say, thanks for the payslip, Vicky. Oh, and by the way, we've got this question. And it drove engagement with our clients, and I sometimes still get a little bit frustrated when I see people outsourcing payroll, because we always, when I went to college, we were taught that outsourcing was you outsourced a non-core activity. And for me, payroll is absolutely critical, because we have to get it right. It's our reputation on the line, but equally, it's one of the things that we do every week or we do every month. So it's a great opportunity to build really good relationships with your clients, get to understand what's going on in their business. And that's where the ability to overlay HR, when we can do it in a very simplistic way. And you're going to talk to us in a moment about how you can kind of facilitate that. It just makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. Absolutely.
So we'll pick up these agenda points as we go through. But let me flick over and hand over to you to just give those on the webinar this morning a bit of an introduction to what Citrus does. I know that you guys are quite different because you're not just a technology platform; you're an HR support platform.
Absolutely.
For firms as well.
So we built our own HR platform, web-based app. And that's linked into the Xero ecosystem, and we're about to launch our integration to QuickBooks as well. That's in the final stages of testing this week. So the vision has always been to have a joined up HR service. So you enter some information once and you can use it many times. And that should start from the point when somebody wants to offer a new employee a job. And this has been the case for years. You can generate the job offer letter from inside our system. That when that gets accepted, you can press a button on our system that'll send your new employee a form. They can fill in their own personal details themselves before they get there. They can feel a bit more part of things when they get there. There's a lot of other help for onboarding that person before they get here and afterwards. Whole probation review processes built in, but lots of warm fuzzy stuff, cultural as well as legal. The law change in April, you probably all know. So you've got to issue your contract of employment on day one now. That didn't used to be the case, but it is now the case. All sorts of other changes there. Our system will generate that contract for you. It's all joined up and it's far faster. So the big benefits for customers using the service are major time saving and always knowing where that information is and having access to it 24/7. It's on the cloud, you can get it from wherever you want. And certainly for me as a business owner, that is the biggest issue. The biggest advantage is always having that information available to us. It began when I had an office manager come to me one day and said, look, we need a better system for holidays. I had 50 staff at the company at the time. And people weren't returning holiday forms. They were all over the place. She was spending ages trying to work out how much holiday people had left. People were frustrated. She was frustrated. It didn't work very well. So we solved all that with employee self-service on the system, on our software. They can log in themselves. They can see how much holiday they've got. If they're puzzled, they can look at how that allowance was calculated, where it's come from. They can apply for it themselves. Their manager or whoever you want can approve it. It's nice and seamless. We then overlay onto that the contracts of employment, the advice, and a staff handbook. Some of you might remember a product called Kroner's Small Business Handbook. It was a loose leaf guide. I used to see this when I was auditing lots of companies, and the loose leaf updates would be thrown around somewhere near this thing, but never put in. And it was a phenomenally successful product. Lots of people had it, but it was basic, bare bones stuff. Right? And what we're trying to do is modernize that concept in this joined up world. So if the law changes, we can make sure we update those policies for you, we'll tell you, and the system will know about it. All the policies are online, you don't print them out. It's greener, really good. I'm waffling too much, but Will.
No,
I'm
no,
not really poised there, but
that's all useful. And I think it's the point about the way that most businesses manage HR is it's like we've seen this evolution, and certainly I'm sure everybody that's on this webinar, by the nature of the fact they're on the webinar, would be that they are they're doing online accounting, because it's a natural step from spreadsheets and everything else. And actually what we're talking about here is going through that same process with HR, taking HR out of ring binders and out of filing cabinets and all of those other things, and putting it in a secure environment that's accessible. I mean, HR is full of confidential information. Also, everybody, my screen is doing all sorts of very bizarre things here. So bear with me. Let me get the slides back. So yes, we've got all this confidential information that's often locked up in cupboards, and this is just enabling the right people to get access to the information they need when they need it.
It's really important.
So on,
I've been in filing cabinets in the old days to try to find a contract or a salary change letter or whatever it was that I needed just to find out what we'd said, the wording, and it was gone. And
Yep.
that doesn't happen in the cloud. That information
Yep.
never vanishes. We've got it.
Yes.
It's there.
Yep.
Really pleased to say just this week we've had confirmation that we've got ISO 27001 certified. ISO 27001 is the information security standard, and that's great. You mentioned security there, Will. Security is massively important, and we firmly believe that our customers' information is far more secure in the cloud with us than it ever was in a filing cabinet in their office.
And this is helping
really
clients. This is helping our clients manage risk as well, isn't it? Around HR, which is a so risk intensive area of law.
Yes.
It almost, if you look at what we do as accountants in terms of managing financial risk, if anything, employment risk is probably a greater risk than some of that kind of compliance regime that we operate in financially. We're seeing lots of change. There was a case yesterday, I gather, in health and beauty with hairdressers, and the fact that they were deemed to have been an employee and not self-employed. All of these risks are kind of really important, and it's having a process and a structure that means we take the time to get this stuff right.
It's really important, and small businesses are vulnerable. As we all know, we've got far too much to do running our own small businesses to try to keep up with all the stuff. And employment law changes often quite significantly with case law, and those cases can have dramatic impacts on some companies. So that how to calculate holiday pay changed dramatically for non-salaried staff last November, even potentially for some salaried staff as well. But it wasn't a small change; it's dramatic. So if you don't know that, you could easily fall foul of the law. And the truth is that small companies regularly get saddled with tens of thousands of pounds of fines and penalties. Now, that's not most small businesses, but it is the danger. And having somebody like us in the background to say, here's what's going on, here's what you need to know, I think can be really helpful. It's far, far cheaper, obviously, than having your own.
Let's think about the opportunity for the account.
So
yes, absolutely. So let's think about the opportunity. Let's think about the opportunity for the accountants. So hopefully we've got a whole bunch of accountants running firms or involved in firms on the call, and some of them might be sitting here looking at this and saying, I have enough challenge kind of keeping on top of the accounting stuff. Why should I be thinking about kind of doing HR as well? So firstly, what's your response to that? But also, how does Citrus help the firms provide that service to clients without having to roll their sleeves up and get hugely involved in the process?
Absolutely, that's what it is. What's in it for you as an accounting firm to work with us, or anybody like us? I think there is a lot of evidence that suggests clients trust their accountants as their primary business advisor far more than anybody else.
Yes.
So we hear time and time again from hundreds of firms that we work with that customers want a recommendation or some advice or answers to questions from their accountant. They come to them for those answers. And we hear often that people haven't liked the answers they've been able to give in the past. Our largest competitor is a firm called Peninsula that I'm sure some of you will know. And well over 100 firms have said to us, please tell me you're not like Peninsula. And the truth is, we're not like Peninsula. And Peninsula is a very strong firm, a successful firm, and if you like their style, that's great, but we're not. We are here to help your clients. And if you can, as a firm, give your customers, your clients, the answers to questions they want from you, then you will help your relationship. And hopefully, we think we can be that answer for some of you. There are a number of firms that like yours, Will, that have good relationships with the local HR consultant. And so, well, where does Citrus fit in? We've already got this. And we can help those situations too, primarily with our software. Most HR consultants locally won't have anything like software like ours. Ours is unique in this ecosystem anyway, but we can also white label it. So if you wanted to have a Farnell Clark HR solution that you can software solution to your customers, we can do that too. So if we do something like that, you can earn regular recurring income from it. And typically our customer lifetimes are many years. We're only a 5-year-old business really, but it looks like our average lifetime is going to be between 6 and 10 years, depending on which monthly period you take, and things. But there's a nice recurring income there that's very easy indeed. It sits there and rolls in. We hear mostly from firms that use us and refer us that the biggest benefit for them is happier client relationships and better run clients. Yes. So if you want your customers to grow and to do the right thing, we can help them do that, right? And so you're cementing, you're making that relationship more stable. That client hopefully becomes a better business, which will long-term benefit you as well. So that's one of the things. And the last major point I would make about how we can work for an accounting firm is we can save you time. So there's one firm that's just confirmed yesterday that they want to give us all their payroll work going forwards in terms of software, using our software for that, because it will save them time. So we hear a lot of firms have pain gathering payroll information, and it's expensive, right? That pain adds up to time that's often expensive and hard time to find. It's quite hard to find good qualified payroll people. So if our software can gather that information for you, whether you use our payroll software or not is irrelevant. You can export it and you can import that into whatever you use. You've got that information. So saving the difficult conversations, avoiding having awkwardnesses when people say, look, I've got another change, and you're going to charge me for that. All that pain goes away if you've got a great software solution that gathers that information. There's a lot of other benefits for the customers too, but we have some firms that are even giving that software to their clients as part of their overall package, because it's going to make that payroll information gathering process easier. So a number of different ways you could do it: income stream from the service and referral fees, white label software, or just time saving for yourselves with your payroll business. A number of key benefits there.
Yeah, excellent. And you touched on there the ability to kind of bundle that stuff in, and that was one of the agenda points in terms of if we think about how we price payroll as a service, there's clearly opportunities to provide HR management software as part of that service. If people are buying the software element, David, without the HR support oversitting that, it's pretty cost effective, isn't it?
Really cost effective. So our charge to customers is currently £2 per employee per month. So it's very small. So if you've got a 10-person firm, it's 20 quid a month. It's not a lot of money for them. And we give, we would share that revenue with an accounting firm if it's a white label basis. So you get a chunk of that. So if you get 100 firms, that's potentially £2,000 a month. And that's extra revenue that we can split between us. That can be quite a nice revenue, and we do have partners that earn thousands of pounds a month for us at the moment. So that's really interesting, but it's cost effective and great value. Obviously, value is the key, as we know, and it's about making sure that we're delivering that.
And I specifically asked that point because I know that the software cost is very low, and if I'm sure many of people listening in are thinking about kind of the way they might price their payroll, and if you're doing that per employee, then we're not talking about a big increase here in terms of instantly creating some value to your clients by saying we're going to give you some software as part of this that will deal with your contracts, deal with your staff handbook, will let you manage holiday leave, will help you with performance appraisal, and all of this stuff that currently most employers really struggle with, in particular around holiday pay, and it's keeping a spreadsheet here and a spreadsheet there and everything else. So for the £2 a month, it really is something that is going to bundle fairly nicely. I'm conscious we're getting quite a number of questions come up in a Q&A, David, so we'll get to those in a moment. I'm sure Rowan's keeping those an eye on those for us as well. So and we've kind of touched on it anyway, but you're quite unique in terms of having this HR support service that sits over and above the software, that's available, as well as a route to assisting firms help their clients. And there's a number of ways they can do this, I guess, in terms of the accountant can use the help desk to get answers to questions for clients, or they can put clients directly in touch with your HR support team.
Yeah, exactly. The main ways we work are with accounting firms are referrals. That's what people seem to want mainly. It's easy come, easy go. You can test it out, and lots of firms do that, and we get lots of firms referring lots of customers to us, which is lovely. We have more and more doing the white label service, and that's a bigger partnership which we're really keen to pursue as well. So really, whatever is going to work better for you, you can get referral fees from just the software or from our HR support service, whichever you'd rather. Payroll is really the key to linking HR and accounts and Xero or QuickBooks. And if we can help you streamline information flow, then that's what we're keen to do. And
that's a really interesting point, because on your slide here, it isn't talking about payroll, but you launched your payroll solution recently as well, didn't you?
So it's only gone live in April this year. We've been running it in a private beta, closed beta, with customers for the previous fiscal year. Went live properly in April this year, it's fantastic. It's simple, it's easy to use, and it's seamless. So, I used to use Sage Payroll for our own payroll, and it took hours literally to do our own payroll, and with cost centers and trying to get information right, get the journal right. It's now less than 5 minutes.
Right.
And that is amazing. And you can obviously crank the handle and use that yourselves for your customers if you want to.
Great. Let's just wrap this up and take the Q&A, because I know there's a few in there. So we always like to provide a few key takeaways here. I'm not going to read these out. You can see them on the screen. But the key things here really: integration with Xero, QuickBooks coming very soon. Keeping your client. I know there's an argument that we're accountants, it's not our job, but it's our job to add value to our clients, and where we can do that without having to get really deep into stuff, we should be looking at these opportunities and taking them, because it's just another piece of value that we can deliver to clients, another way to build those relationships. Making sure that we help clients keep records accurate, manage the risk for them, is really key. And naturally, with furlough and things going on at the moment, anything that makes our life easier for managing this stuff is really valuable. So, David, let's stop there. Before I do, as App Advisory Plus members, we have an offer available to you to access CitrusHR for your own firm, free of charge for a year. Highly recommend you do that. We use that internally in Farnell Clark. It manages our HR process for us. So if you do nothing else, take up that kind offer from the guys at Citrus and use it in your firm, just to understand the power and the simplicity of what you're doing. Let's look at some of these questions, David.
Cool.
Let me dive in here. So, one here, David, can you explain how you deal with our clients? Do you talk to them direct, as though you're a member of our firm, or do you pass us the information to go back to the client? I mean, I think we talked about that, didn't we? So there's a choice. You as the accountant can deal with David's team to get the answers, or you can provide your client access to the help desk. Anything else that I'm missing on that, David? Yeah,
so the main way that it works at the moment is that people will refer a customer to us, and then we would deal with that customer directly. That's how most firms prefer to work. We have some white label customers, and they want to keep the client relationships themselves. We can do that too. We're happy to do that.
Great.
But primarily, accounting firms tend to prefer to disclose it. And we have some that do a hybrid, so they've got a white label of the software, but they then They have a powered by Citrus, and they're keen to have us then put on the relations. The key there with advice is risk and contracts, and accounting firms don't tend to want to be on the hook for potentially any liability issues that might crop up, and so the contract between us and the customer is the way they'd like to do that. But we're very flexible.
Yeah, perfect. Somebody missed the pricing, so for that it's £2 per month per employee for the software.
Yes.
Do you just want to cover the HR
yeah,
support?
So the standard pricing for our HR support service, the full service, which includes software, is 50 quid a month as a flat fee, plus £7 per employee. So if you've got 10 staff, that works out at 120 quid. If you've got 15 staff, it's £155. So it's much cheaper than most HR services at that stage. If you've got 50 or 75 staff, it'll get more expensive. And we have an alternative larger company pricing plan that we can talk to you about if you're interested at that stage. But typically, most of our customers are under 50 staff, and we tend to work out very cost effectively. The other one thing I would say is that part of our DNA from day one is rolling 1 month contracts. Right, so the HR world, Peninsula I mentioned earlier, are dominated by people charging money on a 5 or 7 year contract terms, right, which you cannot get out of. And so we had a lot of people coming to us recently, keen to use us, but found that they couldn't get out of their old contracts. And we have the opposite approach. We don't want to tie you in legally. We want you to stay because you want to stay. And when I mentioned that part of our DNA, what that means is we have to keep you happy, because if you're not happy, you'll leave, and you can leave whenever you want. And we have very few cancellations. The cancellation rate is tiny because it is this cultural thing. We want to work for you. We want to make sure we're giving you what you need. We're built for British small businesses. We have a strong UK focus, and it's about a strong small business focus. So that pricing is decent value. We don't sell on being the cheapest. That's not the point. The point is we're great value, and we want to look after you.
Great, thank you, David. You mentioned Peninsula. Question around this. So Peninsula all the way to tribunal, etc., underwrite the loss outcome if followed their process. Are you a full service beyond the contracts and admin side?
So
is question one. And the second part of this. Sorry, carry on. Go
well,
for that.
to answer that, we don't build in insurance, tribunal insurance. A lot of customers come to us being disgusted with the way that Peninsula type deal worked for them in practice, because it's a very tight, narrow way of doing things. So people often don't like the way they have to go about it. So they find that in practice, they don't really think it was good value, but it's a very strong message. Some people love it. We can arrange tribunal cover for you as an extra. That's not included, but we can arrange that. It's a more flexible policy. So if you want that, we can build that in, and that would be still competitively priced. But we don't do that ourselves. We focus on avoiding tribunals. We think tribunals are a waste of time, and for particularly small companies, we work very hard to avoid them, and we broadly achieve that. But we can absolutely help you if you need to. We would not represent you in court. Peninsula would. It's a different service, but we believe that we would still be dramatically better value than someone like a Peninsula, and there are a number of other companies, Citations One and others, that work in a very similar way. But we believe we're better value for our customers than they would be.
Yeah, great. Couple of questions around integration with other payroll solutions. So BrightPay, MoneySoft, for example. Traditionally desktop, which makes the API a little tricky.
Exactly. So CSV exports is the only route there, because they don't accept cloud integration. BrightPay isn't properly cloud. They have a sort of a quasi cloud thing. BrightPay is very good. MoneySoft is very good. So you can export what we call a payroll report, which gathers all the changes to your staff, any time they've put on timesheets, any changes, pay rises, new staff, leavers, all that stuff, sickness. You can export all of that in a CSV file, and that you can then import into those products if you want to.
Great. There's quite a few here, so I'm going to try and whip through these fairly quickly so we don't leave anybody out. David, question around payroll and auto enrolment.
Yep.
I'm assuming it takes care of all the statutory comms and everything else.
Yeah, so we don't integrate that yet. We absolutely, we talk to HMRC directly. We'll automatically, apply any tax code change, any notices that have had coming from HMRC. We'll automatically reassess everybody every time we're on the payroll. That happens automatically. We generate payroll reports nicely. This autumn, next few months, we will be adding payroll integrations to the major auto enrollment providers. But right now it's an export and then a re-import information. But again, CSVs are very handy. Yeah, we're happy to do that.
And David, somebody, hey, Matthew would be interested in connect and discuss how workplace engagement and stuff works. Have you got an email address that people can contact you on?
Yeah, absolutely. David L, D-A-V-I-D-L at CitrusHR.com.
David L at CitrusHR.com. There you go, Matthew. Thank you for your question. Where are we? I think Rowan's been answering some in the background.
Excellent.
So I think we are almost there. Yeah, looks like one other question following on the Peninsula one. Do some of the docs in your software go into more complex things like salary sacrifice, share options, and so forth?
So we don't currently have share option support. It's something we're looking at. I think it's a nice opportunity. There's no HR software that does have that at the moment that I've seen, certainly not for small companies. There are separate share option packages you can get, but that's a very separate thing. I'd like that they're building it in. We don't yet, but we have, I think, the most comprehensive set of document support of anybody in the UK at the moment for health and safety, contracts, staff policies, legal updates and management guides is all built in. So you can, if a policy changes because the law changed, you can update it, send everybody a notice electronically. And then you can track who's read that and who hasn't. And that's really useful if you ever get somebody saying, as customers have, actually, I didn't know that policy change, you didn't tell me. That means actually, we did tell you, here are the times when you looked at that policy, and we know it was you because you checked in and on these occasions. And that's been really useful evidence in disputes that has seen employees drop their actions against their employer.
Excellent. There's a whole bunch of
you can add a bunch of documents. Staff training in the portal, absolutely. People often want to put their vision and values in there. The staff survey, really nice staff survey tool, so you can track satisfaction and ask some specific questions. We've added recently to help people try and stay connected during COVID. That sort of thing.
Excellent.
As well.
Fabulous. Brilliant. Really pleased that we had so many questions, David. That shows that there was genuine interest in what we were talking about. So that's really good. We are coming up to 40 minutes, so it's about time that we call time. But thank you for everybody that attended this morning. It looks as though everybody got some useful value from it. And certainly, if anybody wants to get a demo, take opportunity to utilize that free member offer. Then do get in touch with either David via that email address or Rowan through App Advisory Plus. The recording will be available later today, and Rowan will circulate that to everybody that registered. So if we haven't answered any questions, do drop us a line and we'll do that. So David, thank you very much for taking the time to enjoy us. Thank you to Zoe, who's lurking in the background as well. And enjoy the rest of the week, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks very much, guys.
Thanks, David. Take care now. Bye-bye.
Bye.